here with Derek Smith of Farscapian.com, creator of the Sovereign Stack. So Derek, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome stuff. So tell us a little bit about your project and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, I'll start with the second question. So I'm Derek Smith. I am a meetup organizer in St. Augustine, Florida.
Shout out Florida.
Yeah. We organize the Old City Bitcoiners. And one of the reasons I created Sovereign Stack in the first place was because I wanted to create a meetup website for Old City Bitcoiners. And so it started out with me trying to get that done. And eventually that turned into Sovereign Stack. So if you're ever in Florida, definitely check out Old City Bitcoiners. oldcity-bitcoiners.info is the website.
Okay, awesome stuff. Yeah. So tell us, well, let's back it up here. What is Sovereign Stack?
All right. So Sovereign Stack is software that allows you to create one or more Bitcoin only value for value websites. So it's just a bunch of bash scripts that I've been working on for several years that allow you to spin up brand new and fresh websites, all of which have the functionality and the infrastructure in place for you to create a value for value website. So that means tipping and crowdfunding and carts. And recently we added another aspect which allows you to do Bolt 12 prisms, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, if I had to boil it down, it allows you to create and self-host Bitcoin only value for value websites.
That's awesome stuff, dude. So yeah, how's that going? And then tell us how it's kind of developed into Farscapian.com.
Sure. So I mean, it's a project that I've been working on alone for several years, and I'm trying to get the project out there and people aware of it. And I would like to see more contributors come in and fix the things that I've screwed up, and just get more eyes on it, because I think it is a very valuable project, but it's the way I've approached it, I think, is a little alien to people. My background is in networking and system administration, and so Sovereign Stack, what I was explaining earlier, is that it's a Sovereign Stack is like an infrastructure as code project. So I'm basically scripting out all of the activities you might do as a system administrator. And so the objective there would be to lower the barriers to owning and operating your own node and website and all of the infrastructure surrounding that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So what are some of the hurdles that you think you've had to, or not think, but that you've had to go through to kind of, develop this? And what are you kind of looking for? You said you're looking for potentially other, developers to kind of come and help. So where is an area that you think that, somebody can really help you out at?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, there's a number of areas. I have a roadmap item on the website, so there's definitely those things. I want to improve the security. I want to do more like security assessments and continuous monitoring. So those types of things that make sure that you're running resilient and secure software. So I think those areas need some work. It has been just me working on this for the last few years. So, there's definitely some, I don't have the bandwidth to do every little aspect. And it is kind of a large scope project. And so I think there are some areas in that regard. I'm trying to think other areas. Feature wise, I want to integrate more Nostr based applications. So one of the things that I do when I deploy a website is I deploy a Nostr relay under each website. And each of those relays is whitelisted a pub key. So for each website you deploy, you can have a Nostr pub key that can post to that Nostr relay. And that enables a business to have a Nostr-based social media presence and be able to host their relay and spread their message. But at the moment, that relay doesn't allow anyone else to post messages. It's really just for getting your company's messaging out.
Okay. Yeah, so I kind of want to dive into Nostr a little bit, because one of the things I want to take away from my time here in Austin is kind of to have a deeper understanding of the capabilities of Nostr, or like what people see for Nostr in the future. Because right now, it seems like to me, it's just kind of like almost like an open source Twitter in a sense, like a Twitter replacement. And I can see, obviously the marketplace of like, you message people back and forth, that kind of thing, like the potential behind that. But like what else do you kind of see as like maybe some potential, options or potential growth forward with Noster as like you're kind of, helping build towards that and building towards that, like, the marketplace and things like that, because, essentially like what am I missing here?
Yeah. So with regard to Nostr, it's a protocol, not a platform. So it's
Okay.
not recreating Twitter per se. So the Nostr protocol is basically a messaging format. If you create a JSON message in this way, other people will be able to read it. But you use these relays to kind of propagate those little messages around. So back to your question on what is it going to be used for? So like in my case in particular, I'm currently deploying Nextcloud in Sovereign Stack, and I was using that for calendaring functionality. Well, Nextcloud is a very large software.
Is that almost like a Calendly kind of like replacement in a sense, or
I wouldn't go that far. It's more
okay,
about exposing just a simple calendar endpoint, like a
okay.
webcal endpoint that people can subscribe to, and see updated events.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So that's interesting then. So instead of like say like meetup.com or
Hmm.
something like that, you can, subscribe to this, PlebLab's calendar, for example,
Right.
or
Right.
something, and you can see all the okay. That's
Yeah, and
interesting.
that's exactly why I created it in the first place. Is for the meetup. Is I wanted to get
Ah,
away from using Meetup.com and try to get people to using the self-hosted Bitcoin only value for value website. So I was thinking, well, there's a lot of functions that Meetup does provide. Are there some that I could implement? And one of those was the calendar. But it turns out Nextcloud is a little clunky. The backups are very large. And so I'm intending on removing Nextcloud functionality and trying to base the calendar function on Nostr, which would be much simpler because I would just be able to deploy like a front end calendar app. And then all of the events would just be Nostr messages.
gotcha.
And so from like a system administrator perspective, it's much simpler because I just got to back up the Nostr relay database.
Gotcha.
And it's going to be much smaller, first of all, and much simpler than Nextcloud.
Yeah.
So that's just an example. Another example is Gitty. I self-host Gitty, which is like an open source GitHub alternative that you self-host. Well, is there a way to put GitHub like functionality but use Nostr? Well, it turns out people are working on that. And so I'm going to deprecate Gitty and try to migrate more to Nostr based alternatives. So in general, I would say if there's a Nostr based alternative to something I'm doing currently today, I intend to switch to that over time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, and I mean it makes complete sense, right? I mean, you don't like, I mean, we see the Twitter files coming out, the censorship, like all that kind of stuff, like just having that central entity, um, you know, adds counterparty risk, right? I mean, so
Mhm.
I mean, it's all revolved around the Bitcoin ethos, which is I think is pretty interesting, right? I mean, we saw what Damas was removed from the Apple store, the App Store or whatever, and I wouldn't be surprised if that stuff kind of continues as it goes. So as somebody that's working on like the value for value kind of thing, so where do you see the development of this? Because I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate right now, because I
Mhm.
think in this bear market, or you know people like to, yeah, it's like I'm a creator, for example, right? I got podcasts, I got other things. People have blogs that write, people can stream them sats. People like to kind of hang on to their sats, especially like kind of in the bear market, and they're not, as I think like the value for value is growing in a sense, but it's not quite to the point where it's like, hey, I could do this podcasting thing full time and accept
Mhm.
no ads and just have people stream me sats at this point. So it's kind of like in this impasse where it's growing, but it's not quite to the point where, like, I don't know, like marketing and like companies kind of doing that kind of thing are still going to be prevalent. So how do you see this, like, kind of, I guess, developing selfishly from like a creator side of things?
Yeah. So the way I kind of look at this question is the way I look at it is Bitcoin needs to be valued first as a store of value. And once it's widely held by people for a store of value, then it'll transition to a medium of exchange, in which case you'll see more payments. So, I'm trying to be more low time preference and build toward that eventuality when people are willing to spend it on an everyday basis. But I am perfectly fine with people holding on to their sats, but I do try to explain to them that whether you spend dollars or sats really doesn't matter. It's your overall savings rate that's being impacted. And so if you pay someone with sats or dollars, it doesn't really matter that much in terms of your overall savings rate. You're just using a different payment rail.
Gotcha.
And so, but it's hard for people to kind of grasp that, and I'm okay with that. We need time to work on Lightning, improve the protocol, get all of the software integrated and everything, and so I think it's appropriate. We have time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's just like you said, like the longer the time preference. So it's, even though it's not there right now, it is something that, you see growing, right? I mean, developments of podcasting 2.0 apps seems to be like kind of, around there, right? I mean, I just talked to Parker Lewis and Will Cole of ZapRight. They're talking about that for like blogs and other things too. So, where do you kind of see your farscapian.com kind of like integrating in all of this? Like, where do you see, like, where's your target market? And yeah, kind of like having that grow. Cause I mean, you said, you're kind of around the meetup space, like that kind of thing. So where do you see, like, I guess, who are you building it for?
Well, first of all, I built it for myself.
There we go.
To create a meetup website. And then, of course, I added other websites on top of that. I wanted to create a system where you could, on your own machine, self-hosted, on a residential internet connection where you only have one public IP address, I wanted to be able to host multiple websites. And so I created that. So Farscapian, that's like my professional blog website where I direct people to all of my other projects. And then there's another Sovereign Stack site for Sovereign Stack. There's one called Satoshi Spirits, which is like a bar or brewery that I send people to. And I think I forgot exactly what your question was, but
no, I mean, I think you answered it, because I was asking, like, basically who is your target audience, and you're like, this is something that I wanted, I needed.
Yeah.
And so like more people are going to, like, I mean, I'm not saying like you're not unique, but there's going to be people that, want something like this in the future, right? Maybe it's just for you right now, or just for, meetup organizers. But in the end, like, okay, Bitcoin meetups are special in the sense where it's like Bitcoin only, all that kind of stuff. But people meet, people host events all the time. So this is something that, could definitely grow to that. So, what is, I guess, next? What's the next steps for you? And where do you kind of see this going through the rest of the year?
Yeah. So I want to try to grow the open source project and get more contributors and eyes on the project and make the software more resilient. But with regard to your, target audience and target market, I am thinking about these things, and I think there's opportunity to create some businesses on top of this software. And I didn't mention during my presentation, but there are no licenses with this, right? I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I don't believe in intellectual property. I say with air quotes. And so it's like information, it's out there. If you want to create a business on top of it, I would be honored, honestly. And so my view is kind of, if you're going to be incompatible with the Bitcoin ethos, you want to have a business model that is deploying solutions in a non-custodial, or I should say self-custodial and a self-hosted manner. And I'm very critical of these hosted solutions. And now there are trade-offs, like Greenlight, for example, they allow you to hold your own keys, and I think that's probably an appropriate model. But in general, I am more of a run it yourself type of guy. And so I think business models that kind of focus on helping end customers run their own node, I think would be a more appropriate business model. There are other ways. So this sovereign stack requires network infrastructure, compute nodes, switches, firewalls. And so I think another business model could be packaging those pieces of hardware into a nice clean box that you can just plug in and get that functionality. But always with the focus of enabling their end customers to run it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it'll allow a lot of small businesses or businesses in general just to build on top of it and kind of continue their growth on their own. So yeah. So back to the other question though, what do you think is next for you and throughout the rest of the year? Because you got the target audience and you kind of see that growth, and you said you have a roadmap. So is there anything that you want to give us, like maybe a little peek under the hood as to what that is?
Yeah, well, so the next guy you'll be talking to maybe is Damien, and he's talking about Bolt 12 prisms. And so I've been working with him and trying to get this Bolt 12 prism thing pushed forward. And so that's what I'm excited to continue working on, is the Bolt 12 prism stuff. So maybe I shouldn't announce it. Maybe I'll let Damien, but it is a Sovereign Stack website, so I feel like I'm entitled to. But we have a new website called royjibiv.guide. That is a Sovereign Stack website. And the point of that one is the first of its kind multi-author blog that uses Bolt 12 prisms. So if you're not familiar with a prism, it's just payment splits, basically. So if someone sends a payment to a Bolt 12 offer, once received, it'll take that money and split it out to multiple downstream people. But that's all occurring on your node, on your core Lightning node.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm interested in seeing that be pushed forward. And I'm also in the process at the moment of organizing a hackathon team for TabConf.
There we go.
And we do have a good idea that uses this technology, and I'll just leave you with that. We have some really good ideas.
There we go, the teaser.
So yeah, so give us a month and maybe you'll see some other things coming down the line.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, be on the lookout for them at TabConf. So yeah, we have farscapian.com, but is there anything else that you want to like kind of, I guess, plug here at the end that you want to send people to before I let you go?
Sure.
I want to let you get to Damien's speak or talk right now. So.
Well, I mean, the only thing I would mention is that I do work for tips on the internet.
Yeah.
So I've been working on this Sovereign Stack for a solid 3 or 4 years, dipping into my savings to do that. And so if people do think it's valuable, please head to my website or any of the websites that I've created with Sovereign Stack. You can go to sovereign-stack.org/examples, or maybe it's /tag/examples, and see all of the websites that I'm featuring on there. I have several more, but only 4 that I want to
I gotcha.
point out.
Well, that's great stuff. Well, Derek, thanks so much for giving me your time, man.
I appreciate it.
I look forward to connecting with you more this week. And yeah, everybody go stream my boy a little bit of sats, man. help him out. And yeah, be on the lookout for TabConf, dude. I mean, you gotta bring home the prize now, right?
Oh, if I may, one other thing. Yeah. If you're going to be at BitBlock Boom, there's a presentation, D++, if you're familiar with her. She does a Lightning LARP, and I've helped her, and along with the Clams tech team. Clams is a Lightning wallet. We've been working hard the last few months with that presentation, so it should be a good one. Hopefully it works well, and so if you're able to make that, definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so yeah, if you guys are going to be here at BitBlock Boom, be sure to go bug Derek, talk his ear off about what he's building, and yeah, great stuff, man. I'm looking forward to connecting the rest of this week.
All right, thanks a lot.